Now, it was a fine weekday morning when many had either gone to work, school, or attended to some other business. But what appeared to be a normal day on the 7th of November 2012 turned out to be the day many will dread to recall. 14 died, scores were injured, and property worth millions was lost. And that was the scale of the disaster when a building housing the then Achimota branch of Melcom Supermarket collapsed on that fateful day. Now, with the stadium disaster still fresh in our memories, it shook the nation as though it was the first of such disasters caused by human error in Ghana. The Melcom disaster prompted action against weak structures or poorly managed facilities, but was that action enough? Because that wasn't the end. In the central region, a poorly built structure, a school, collapsed one morning, killing 6 babies, 6 toddlers who had been brought to school that day. In Niboy town in Accra, it was a 6-story hotel under construction that caved in. Just 4 of such incidents that we can recall right now. But of course, they capture the state of Ghana's built environment, where people's lives are put at risk by the lack of maintenance culture and our appetite for bypassing regulatory authorities in the construction of various facilities. Today, we've put together all the experts to discuss the current situation and find ways of addressing them to ensure public places in Ghana are safe. First, though, here's Nancy Emefa Dradosi's tour of some facilities here in Accra.
Following reports of 3 people who were injured after the ceiling of Ghana's biggest shopping mall at the Tatakwashi roundabout caved in, there have been several concerns raised about Ghana's maintenance culture. Successive governments and key stakeholders have spoken to this very topic at various levels without a firm grip of solutions for the unwanted deterioration of infrastructure in the built environment. From roads and bridges to the worst areas being housing, covering both the private and most importantly the public sector, consisting homes, offices, parks, hospitals and transportation stations. We take a tour through the nation's capital, and the roads were with potholes, which were now more of dugouts and manholes. At the Accra International Conference Center, however, you may want to look keenly to identify cracks or anything that shows there is lack of maintenance culture. But it was sad when we visited the very park meant for children in Accra. Metals hanging out loosely and rusted with seats completely destroyed. This shows how the once beautiful Efwa Sutherland Park is losing its glory due to the lack of proper maintenance culture. A typical example of the result of non-maintenance was when 6 kindergarten pupils died in 2017 after a classroom block at the Breman Jamra Methodist School in the Sukuma Odobeng Brakwa district of the central region collapsed on them.
Sometimes I feel that I will not come to school because when you come to school you cannot concentrate it. The nature of this building is even larger than the one that collapsed on the children.
Looking at the cracks in this building, you can see now, the KG block that collapsed, it was even the crack that was in it was very, very light. But this one, if you look at it, the children, they knew the state of the KGG block, and when they see this one, they will be bold to tell me, they say, in fact, the classroom that we are, everybody is alert to hear, then we all run away. So it is not what the teachers are teaching that we listen to. Everybody is alert that the building will collapse. So if KG block had been collapsed, then definitely this one too, the probability of this one to collapse is higher.
The question still lingers. How does Ghana rise above non-maintenance of properties? Nancy Emefa Dradose, Joy News.
Right. Now, on social media, we asked the following question. Do you believe public facilities in Ghana are being managed well? We'll tell you what you and others said about that shortly. But first, let me introduce you to my guest right here in the studio. We're very happy to have Dr. Stephen Nkatia. He's the Metropolitan Director of Works at the AMA. He's joined by Nicholas Solomon, who is a Project and Facilities Management Consultant with Hednick Consult. He's also flanked by Stephen Jabba. Licensed Surveyors Association is where he has come from, and we're very honored to have them in the studio. On the phone, we will be joined by Nana Ano Amehia, who is the president of the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, GISEP. We'll also speak to Dr. Stephen Ankama-Lomote, who's the Metro Director of Factories, and he's mandated to inspect factories, stores, and other business facilities for structural integrity. I'm sure he'll have a lot to share with us. But gentlemen, thank you so much for making the time to be with us here in the studio. Now, this conversation about maintenance culture and facilities management must begin from somewhere. Because if you build a structure that is, well, wrongly built, poorly built, doesn't matter what you do in terms of maintenance, it's still a disaster waiting to happen. So I wanted to start from there, from the concept of building to the right regulations. Now, I noted that there are at least 11 separate steps that at which the assembly has to sign off on any building structure before you can move on to the next step. At least 11, and likely to be more. So I want to start with you, Mr. Nkatia, Dr. Nkatia, forgive me. Is this actually happening? Are you inspecting 11 times at least every single structure that is going up in Accra?
With respect to the inspections of development projects, we at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, we have several sub-metros which are responsible to carry out the day-to-day inspectorate of development projects. One, we have engineers assigned at the sub-metro terrains where they go to inspect. They also have a GPS to ascertain and then to connect us at the head office to show us that this development is unauthorized. Then we move there with our team, with the securities, we lock up the place, and then we ask them to apply for building permit to regularize the structures. Now, back to your questions about the 11 steps, where we are doing what we are supposed to do to ensure that all the 11 steps are followed. But is it really followed? Because sometimes some of the building inspectors are not doing what they are required to do. So when we find
Why
out,
not?
So when we find out, we bring them to the office, and then we try to query them to ascertain why this development has this deficiency. If we don't find anything good, then report to the authority so that they'll be replaced or sacked. So that's what we do.
Well, now, I ask this because what you've described to me is a sort of a reactionary system that you have in place. If something goes wrong, you know what to do.
Yeah.
But while someone is building, someone has come for a proper permit, they've got land, they've started building. Will that project get inspected 11 times at 11 separate stages? Because according to the law, if you haven't signed off on one stage, the builder can't move on to the next. So my question is, that regular prescribed activity that the law says must happen, is it happening?
Yes, it is. Because before you move to site, during the excavation stage, you have to write to the authority, which is the Director of Works, as I speak to you. Yeah, and then I would now give the approval and assign an individual to supervise that project. And the individual will write back to me that yes, he went, they did the setting out, and they're allowed to carry out the excavation. So at each stage, before the commencement, the client should write to us, and then we will reply then and assign an expert to be with them. When they complete that activity, we also sign to indicate that yes, we are satisfied with the substructure. So you can now move to the superstructure. At that point, they also write to us when they intend to commence that superstructure activity. We also approve of that, send an expert to ascertain whether what they are doing is in accordance with specification. If it is, then we also approve of that and then sign. So,
and this happens for every property that is under construction in this city.
It's supposed to happen. I won't be able to speak with respect to the other places, but with Accra Metropolitan Assembly, yes, it will happen.
Right. Let me come to you, Mr. Jabba. You're from the Licensed Surveyors Association. You've spent a day or two on sites of ongoing projects. Can you corroborate what is being said? Do you see this process going through smoothly every single time?
Thank you. Mostly, as you know, surveying goes with measurement. And before you be able also to measure, we follow the design and the plan and the layout that is being given to the metro for them to follow. What is happening is that mostly surveys that have been done are not approved. And most of the assemblies are also not using the approved plan that the spatial planning have used. Because in Ghana, the government doesn't own all the lands. The chiefs have their land that they themselves can contract somebody and prepare the plan for them. So in view of this, it doesn't follow the normal procedure, because you cannot start building when your land has not been measured, when you have not done your design as per what has been measured and what has been surveyed. So this is what happened mostly on the city that we are living here in Accra. So that has brought a lot of challenges with the metropolitan for them to be able to manage. So if we are able to really follow the plan as it's done, then definitely the surveyor has to be on the ground to measure and give the data to the designer to plan. And afterwards, before it goes back to the metro for them to go through these processes. But mostly because people want to build fast. Development is ahead of planning. So many people do this, and before they come back and then they want to regularize. So that has caused many problems. So you see people starting construction when they have not gone through the normal processes. And like he's saying, we don't have capacity. If you go to the survey and mapping division in Ghana, they're supposed to have a unit that will be able to help the metro to do that. But surprisingly, they don't have the capacity to assign all the surveyors to be able to follow the district assemblies to do what they are required to do. So that has become a challenge for this country that we need to look at.
Mr. Nkatia, we will come back to you for a reaction to this, because it sounds like what the surveyor is describing as reality on the ground is very different from the theory. But we'll come back to that. I first want to acknowledge Nana Ano Amihia. He's the president of the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, GISEP. He joins us over the phone. Nana, it's very nice to connect with you. Also on the phone, Dr. Stephen Ankama Lomote, who is the Metro Director of Factories, and he's mandated to inspect factories, stores, and other business facilities for structural integrity. I want to come to you first, just for a moment, Nana, before we come back to our in-studio panel. Now, the trigger for the most recent conversation about the safety of public structures has been the collapse of the ceiling at the Accra Mall. We are still awaiting the report to tell us what caused the ceiling to collapse. But one thing that came out of the story is that there were fire marshals in place who managed to minimize the potential damage to life and property by properly marshalling people out of the danger zone in a safe and secure manner. Surely, that is an indication of Ghana moving in the right direction regarding health and safety, isn't it? Hello, Nana, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Wonderful. Okay, do I need to ask the question again, or?
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Okay.
Before we deal with the topic, safety of Ghana's built environment, may I do just a brief intro to put perspectives on the built environment. You see, in the built environment, we have three key stakeholders. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're listening.
Yes, you have the architects, you have engineers, and you have the safety professionals. These are the three key stakeholders when we talk about the built environment. Now, when you talk about the architects are the spatial planners. They do their phantom dreams and they come up with all these structures that you see, beautiful structures. And then the engineers, they put structural integrity or stability to all these designed by the architect. And we as safety professionals, we act as doctors. We do the sustainability of the built environment in terms of how to do maintenance and other things. That is the role that we, the safety professionals, do play. Now that I've done the intro, let's get into the safety of the built environment itself. Now, as a people governed by rule of law, everything that we, governs or regulations are all there. We have laws that governs everything. Now, let me go to the area that we're talking about, the building code. We have a building code. Now, to be precise, we have this building, let me give you the National Building Regulations 1996, LI 1630. And when you go into this LI 1620, if you may allow me, let me go into this thing that is very, very important that you should know. You know the LI regulation 11, 12, and 13. It says that the building code, that's what the building code is saying. A district planning authority may, for the purpose of giving effect to these regulations, appoint a qualified building inspector within the meaning of these regulations to oversee and inspect daily work on buildings, erections, and installations. Going further to 12, it says a district planning authority may, in respect of any building which has, in its opinion, fallen into a state of disrepair or neglect and constitutes a safety or health hazard to the public, or for aesthetic purposes, serve notice in writing upon the owner of such building, requiring him to carry out all such reasonable repairs or painting as may be specified in the notice and within such a time as may be stated in the notice. Do you see, Kojo? You see, it's there. But in Ghana, do we actually enforce the law? The building code is there. It's there in black and white. So that's why today, when the gentleman called me, I said, you see, as a people, we have mandated an institution, an agency, which is called Inspectorate of Factories and Shops and Offices. That was set up in an Act 703, 1974. It mandates the Inspectorate of Factories and Shops and Offices to go around and ensure that everything that is here in the regulations should be complied with.
Right.
But,
I think that is a good point at which we can then ask the person who is joining us from that inspectorate how things are going, in particular with the most recent event at the Accra Mall. So let's very quickly bring him online because he's right there with you. Dr. Stephen Ankama Lomote, he's the Metro Director of Factories, and he's mandated to inspect factory stores and other business facilities for structural integrity. Dr. Ankama Lomote, thanks for joining us. Tell us, when was the last time you inspected Accra Mall?
Well, my jurisdiction is actually Teba, and Accra Mall is under Accra. We have inspectors there that are supposed to do due diligence. So
very well. That
may mean going to check their files to know what exactly they've been doing there. But I think the last time I checked, they erected some scaffolds. That was a bit permanent, and at the same time they were doing business, and we had to go and stop them from using the scaffold to dismantle it or finish it before doing business. That's what I remember so far.
Right, and that was to do with this same section of the ceiling.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, now what was the scaffold for? What were they doing
to the ceiling? They were doing some maintenance work.
Maintenance work.
It's my friend, Mr. Ami here, who even informed me. And
right.
I relayed it to those in Accra.
Very well. Now tell us about the work that you and your department are supposed to do. You're supposed to go around, inspect these facilities.
All right. We are supposed to carry out safety, the mandate of safety provisions in Ghana. All right. We do so by conducting routine inspections. We also do accident investigations to make sure that we have decent work environment. So precisely, we are itinerant. And then we also write follow-up letters to check whether occupiers, we call them occupiers, the owners of industries, are complying with pressure vessels laws and lifting appliances law and others. We also organize training programs to sensitize them on safety issues. Yeah.
What would you say is the most common breach that you find in your work?
The most common breach is workers avoiding the use of safety equipment and then bypassing safety or standard work procedures.
How often does this result in incidents and accidents?
Oh, well, for now, not too often because we've managed to raise the awareness by holding training programs for them. But once in a while, that things happen. And I think last year or two, it was well.
Now, you're in charge of Tema. There's quite a bit of industry and business in Tema.
Yeah.
So how often would you say each installation gets a visit from you and your team? How often per year?
That's a very nice question. And it boils down to an equation. The number of inspectors we have here, we have just 6 inspectors, and you are working with over 600 officially registered factories. But in actual fact, you have over 1,000 factories when you add the informal sector. So what we do is that we draw a routine inspection program, but it is not really possible that you visit a factory more than twice, unless it's a hazardous factory and you often have accidents and the rest, and you have to do checks and then to make sure they comply and you enforce the law.
So that's no more than twice per year, right?
No. But some you could go even 5 times because the place is a hazardous place and people are prone to get accidents.
So twice per year, is this okay, or would you have loved to? What would be the what's the right word? What's best practice?
The industries often, if we have the capacity, and we are limited because we have just one vehicle and we have to plan well, and then do the diligence.
You have just one vehicle.
It's like selective inspection.
Forgive me. Did you say you have just one vehicle?
One vehicle, yes.
For how many inspectors?
We have 6 inspectors here.
6 inspectors, one vehicle. How do you even make it work?
Well, we do our best. But recently, I think the government ahead has given us about 5 pickups, and it's not enough because we cover the whole country. So.
Interesting. We'll get more from you shortly. But let's come back into the studio, and I've been keen to ask you this question, Nicholas. You, of course, are a consultant, so no doubt you'll see quite a lot of facilities that are under management, and you'll advise on them. You've just heard what we're being told that, well, in Tema, at least twice a year, every industrial facility will get a visit. Is this close to your experience?
Okay, thank you very much, Kojo. I would like to set a certain tone to this conversation. I mean, I listened to Nana Amhire talk about the built environment and the major stakeholders that we have in there. He made mention of the architects, the engineers, and I think the safety professionals. But I mean, in most part of my adult life, I've seen that in our national life, there's very little that has been spoken about facilities management. And as a country that we want to build this nation and save investments, it baffles me that we miss that part of it. How can, in fact, he made mention about the built environment. Let's talk about, I mean, for our viewers to understand what we are talking about, I think we need to explain to them what a built environment is. The built environment is the man-made surrounding where we live, where we work, the parks, the gardens, and all that. So how can you just say that the stakeholders are the architect, the safety professionals, and the engineers? No. What happens to the man that has to live with the rest of the life cycle or the lifespan of the facility? The facility that will last for 75 to 100 years. The guy managing it, what happened to him? Okay, and so it tells you a national mentality towards management when it comes to facilities management.
So why don't you tell us why facilities management is so important?
Okay, I think that if you look at the world globally, there's a lot of investment that has gone on into infrastructure, roads, bridges. Just before I came here, one gentleman was asking me about one of the bridges in this country, and I was talking about the fact that is it in good shape. And I said that, look, there are bridges in New York that has lasted for 100 years and are still very functional. Okay, what facility managers do is basic. All we do is that we make sure and ensure the functionality of the built environment. Okay, in doing this, what we do is that we integrate the people, process, places, technology, okay, to influence the health, the safety, the well-being, and the productivity of the built environment. Not just the infrastructure, but also the workforce or the people that live in it. So when we talk about what he said, even those that live in the built environment are a stakeholder. Because when I got in here, I realized that you guys have some energy tips around your facility. If those energy tips are not being adhered to by those that work here, you are a stakeholder. You get what I mean? And so it is very essential that we train, and we interest you to know that in the whole country, all our public institutions, there's no one single university that even runs an undergraduate degree program in facilities management. And it saddens my heart. And we keep on talking about maintenance culture here and there. I don't even believe that we don't have a maintenance culture. I think that's an insult to Ghanaians. Ghanaians have a maintenance culture. It is a lack of education, lack of facilities management education, and that is what has brought us where we are. That's why we see things failing all around us. In fact, when a facility is built, now there's something we call a facility reference plan. I heard Doc talking about, you know, the different stages of inspection and the drawings, inspection and all that. But do you know that most people that build, the as-built drawings are even different from the drawings that some of them even present to the metropolitan or to the authorities that engage in these things.
How are they getting away with that?
Well, I mean, I think that it comes back to consistent communication or with those that are the contractors and those that are building and all that. Because you realize
are you saying that the authorities and inspectors are not on the ball? Is that why we're able to slip wrong drawings past them?
Okay, well, I wouldn't say that concretely, but what I'm saying is that if there's a problem, I'm talking about the realities on the ground. Because if these facilities are inspected each and every time they are built, what happened? Where did we go wrong? Why is the facility coming down? Why did Melcom come down? Why did those schools come down? Why did the ceiling at the Accra Mall come down? There's a problem somewhere, and that has to be checked. Okay, people build, and at the end of the day, you find them chiseling somewhere, you find them trying to make some adjustments somewhere. All that even goes a long way to weaken the structural integrity of the building. You know, now, so these are some of the things that we need to critically look at.
I want to bring up the example of the school that collapsed on those poor little children in the central region. Now, I know this was about 2 years ago, and most certainly, Doc, this was not in your area. You deal with the AMA, but there is somebody who is being paid to do your job in that area, and this is a building that was put up by the community because government couldn't afford it. But if the community is putting up a building, does the government still not have a responsibility to inspect it and make sure it's being built to regulations? How do you explain how some of these structures are built from beginning to the top and are occupied without anyone in your line of work checking to make sure it's being done correctly? This is a question for you, Dr. Nkatia.
Yeah, with respect to rapid supervision of ongoing structures within our cities, most often, even in Accra, people are recalcitrant with respect to building and code. Sorry, with respect to building regulations. As we speak, there's no building code for Ghana. There's yet to come out, so we are still waiting. Yeah,
but we have regulations, very well written building regs.
Yes, which is the National Building Regulation 1996 LI 1630. So before you design as a consultant, architecturally, structurally, and things, for the structure, we do have BS, which is Building Standard 8110, which is the British standard, the BS. Yes, that's what is used here. Yeah. So for both architectural and structural. But with respect to the national building, regulations. The assembly where each building is springing up, the proliferations of buildings springing up within every part of this nation, 20% does not have a design. They are recalcitrant, they do their own thing. But because of lack of supervision on our own people, when you approach them, they tell you that they don't have the staff. Maybe AMA has the staff, the full complement of staff. But when you get to the other places, they tell you that maybe in the whole assembly for West Department, they should have about 2 or 3 staff. And with this, I don't know how they are going to supervise those buildings.
This is a big problem.
There's a huge problem.
You've quoted a statistic. 20% of them are being built without even a design.
Without even a
Can
design.
I ask, how do you know that figure? What's the source of that figure?
Where that figure, as I speak to you, is not that scientific, but from my own search, I have gone around in Takrady, I've gone around in Western region, in Ashanti region, in Central region, and then in Greater Accra region.
So this is your estimation from what you've seen?
Yes.
That means you've seen these buildings that are going up without design?
Yes.
And so have your counterparts in all of these areas you've described?
Yes.
So why are they there? I mean, I've seen some. I'm sure everybody has seen a building that started off as a 1-story, and then at some point landlord says, I'm going to build 2 more floors. And they just go ahead and build 2 more floors. We see it happening. It's happening all around us. Why are you allowing it? Isn't it dangerous? Are we not aware of the risk to human life? Why is it happening?
It's danger, and then it's threat. The Hammurabi law of construction, I think way back in Babylon or somewhere like that, when you are building, as the building experts, if the building collapse and then 2 or 3 persons die, they will get you. If you have your wife or 2 children, they will execute them. But I'm not saying that is the right thing to do, no. But what I'm saying here is people should engage consultants to carry out their design processes for them.
And when they don't, what should happen to them?
When they don't, is the prerequisite of all assemblies in this country. Prerequisite to stop you from carrying out that development.
Are you doing that?
That's a tough question. For AMA,
that's what we're paying you to do.
We are doing. For AMA, I can speak for AMA and TEMA, but I can't speak for the rest of the nation.
That's a pity, because AMA and TEMA by no means constitutes the majority of our nation. But thank you for your honesty. We have to understand the problem so we can see about solving it. Now, I want to, before I come back to Nana on the phone, I want to come to Mr. Jabba. Now, I know how important the role of a surveyor is in any project, any construction project, but it appears to be very underestimated. People go without it. People just get on with it. In your industry, in your sector, what are you doing to make sure that more people do exactly what they ought to and employ experts like you at the right stages in their development?
Thank you. If you listen to what when Doctor was talking, Amehe was talking about, he mentioned the stakeholders. He missed our surveyors. And that was one of the dangerous things that we are doing here in this country.
Looks like a number of stakeholders were missed out, right?
If you are not recognized, who will even look for you? Yeah. But one of the key things, as we are all talking about, is to measure. And when you forget about the surveyor, who is measuring for you? The safety people need the measurement to be able to check whether the building is still stable or it is still moving. And one thing that we forget in this country is that we are on an earthquake-prone zone. Since 1936 that we had a major earthquake, there have been series of earth tremors. We have to look at what is happening. Before you build, the geological department needs to give you the geological map to know where and what the safety aspect of what you need to do. And the surveyor will have to demarcate for you. But because we have ignored all these things, it could be possible that the shopping mall accident could be that there was earth tremor. We have even earthquake station in this country. Nobody knows where it is. And sometimes whether it is still working or not, we need to find out about all this. And they can report to us daily what is the situation of the movement of the earth. And the surveyors can also be able to demarcate for us to know where are safety place to build and where are not. But because this has not been happening, it has become like surveyors are only known when you want to buy land. Go and look for a surveyor to measure the parcel of land for you. But that is not all. You require a surveyor on your daily life in whatever you are doing, because if you don't measure, you don't know what it is. So because measurement is a key issue in all this development we are talking about, you need a surveyor in a built environment. And we need to see what to do. Most of the district assemblies, like AMA, they don't have a full survey section that could guide them on to do what really they have to do. So they second surveyors to do this job. And because it's doing so, their work is not seen in the daily checks of this work that they are doing. And that has caused most of these problems, that we think that nothing can be done. But we believe that it's possible that we can solve these problems when we get the stakeholders united and work together as a group.
Right, now, Nana, I'm here. I have a question for you, but before I ask that question, let me check a detail. Very quickly check a detail with you. You're the president of Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals. Can you tell me how many safety and environmental professionals you estimate there are in Ghana?
Our membership is around 500.
About 500 safety and environmental professionals.
That's right.
Okay.
And let me respond to the... Hello?
Oh, yes, we're listening, Nana.
Yeah, let me respond to the two gentlemen who thought... I didn't mention the surveyors and the others. It's not
facility,
just
yeah.
like... let me put it this way. The surveyors and the others, they are allied professionals. Now, it's like when a surgeon is performing a surgery, without a theater nurse, the surgeon cannot perform that surgery. So the fact that I didn't mention the allied professionals who work with the architects and the engineers. Engineers need all these professionals, but I could not go out there and say that you have the surveyors, you have this. That's not to slight them. But I said the major stakeholders were the architects, the engineers, and the safety professionals.
Okay,
so
well, I don't want this to go into the direction where our guests will now start asking which of them is the theater nurse of the built environment. So let me get straight to the question I wanted to ask, which is, bearing in mind that you have about 500 members, constituting your Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals. Are all of these 500 members actively engaged providing safety and environmental services in our built environment here in Ghana?
Yes, I would say perhaps about 80% of them. And they are mainly...
What sort of jobs are they doing?
They are mainly engaged as HSE managers in the mining sector who really take safety as their first life. So in the mining sector, in the oil and gas, in the other areas where safety is paramount.
But not so much on construction sites, right?
Construction sites, you see, because in Ghana, let me tell you, in Ghana, there's something we call construction site safety regulation. As we speak, we don't have construction site safety regulations where it regulates how construction is done on a daily basis at all these construction sites that you see. I heard Dr. Kamal Lomoti saying that when there was the issue of dangerous scaffolding being erected at Accra Mall, I was the one who went there shopping with my little girl, and I saw that act was being carried out, and I drew the attention of the authorities of how dangerous that scaffolding was. You see, so when you ask me, because you don't have construction site safety regulations, which some of our members will be happily employed in that area to ensure that when we are on the construction site, we wear all the PPE, we do everything that is regulated, that is written in the regulation. But because we don't have that, nobody conform or adhere to any rules. Everybody, even including the foreign contractors, who should know better that in their country, you could not get somebody up there on the scaffolding without wearing helmet and the requisite PPE.
Let's look at some of the public facilities that have either been renovated recently or built recently. Tell me whether any of your members are there. The Accra Mall, where this happened, I'm guessing none of your members are employed by Accra Mall.
Well, that I'm not aware of, but let me bring you something that is close to government. You see, they say that charity begins at home.
Right.
Now, if you have seen, I don't know whether the scaffolding is still there, I have observed that the Jubilee House, there's a scaffolding that has been erected for the last 3 months. And that scaffolding does not meet up to the international safety standard.
Right.
And
How does it fall short?
That's really sad.
How does it fall short?
No, if I go there to go and do an audit, there are so many things that I can't say right now that is wrong with that scaffolding that is created at the seat of government.
Well, you declared that it doesn't meet the standards. I'm wondering what specifically you've seen that shows that it does not meet the standard.
For instance, something like a tow board. When you rent a scaffolding, you should have a platform that the platform should be able to enclose the workers or the people who will be working on the platform.
Right.
And then it should have a tow board. The tow board will restrict anything that will fall off the scaffolding. And there should be a debris netting. Debris netting is standard where in an environment where there is not a new construction site, but a site that is being worked, that is being habited by people, there should be basically a debris netting. But if you go out there, do you see a debris netting on that scaffolding? The tow board, if there's anybody working on site whilst there are people in the Jubilee House or what have you, if a hammer comes off that platform that they're working on, it will come and fall on somebody's head and cause a serious injury.
Right, so these are two examples of what you would consider to be violations in terms of that scaffolding meeting the standard that it should meet, right?
Yeah, and so many others. On top of my head, I cannot tell you, but if I'm looking at it right now, I'll be able to tell you that this and that does not meet the safety standard.
Well, it'll be interesting to learn from Jubilee House if they have a safety professional working on that particular project.
And Kojo, before you go, let me tell you sometimes, I don't believe in criticizing. When you criticize and you don't proper structured solution, it's like an entertainment. We, as a safety professional, Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, we are having our summit in October, starting from the 22nd up to the 26th of this month. Now, as part of our summit, we have designed a program. Hello, Akoja, are you?
Yes, we're listening. We're listening.
Yes, we have designed a program on incident reporting, how to report effectively on incidents and accidents by the media. So we are conducting a one-day media workshop on 24th October, purposely for the media on how to do HSE reportage. And that is being done in collaboration with the Ochimine Environment Foundation that is going to do that for free for the media to build their capacity.
Okay, so that's great. Since you haven't paid for the advertising, we'll cut that short there. But thank you. That's useful information. We appreciate it. Now, here's what is striking me now. So in this country, it would appear that if you're building, you could actually build to plans that are different from what you've declared to the authorities. You could build from beginning to end without getting inspected. You could build one structure and decide to change it into another, and nobody will stop you. And once you've finished all of that, there's not likely to be a facilities manager. Of course, during the process, you probably did it without a surveyor. And then there will be no health and safety provisions as you go on. Is Ghana living on luck? Are we all sleeping in dangerous structures and waking up just by the grace of God? I want to ask some professional opinions on this. Our guests in the panel, any of you, I'd love to hear an answer.
Okay, Kojo, I think that we have always looked at the deficiency from the structural point of view or from the surveying point of view, but we haven't also considered the integrity of the building components. Now, we were all here when the Ghana Standards Authority Board said that the 90% of the electrical cables that come into this country is fake.
Yeah, only 2 companies meet the regulation.
Exactly. So you see, you would see that there are a lot of things, not just electrical cables. There are lots of things that come into this country that are fake, and so we need facility managers to look at the lifespan of the building components, because it could be that, look, structurally everything was done correctly, but what is the lifespan of a certain iron rod? Okay. Because there are standards for everything. What's the lifespan of a certain electrical cable? If there's fire, how do we know that this electrical cable's lifespan is 2 years and it has already elapsed the 2 years? So it has to be replaced. what is the life cycle of, I mean, the various components in the built environment. And it's something that we need to critically look at, so that if any facility is being put up, right from the design stage, even conceptualization stage, once the project manager gets the project charter, a facilities manager must be on board. In that, when it happens, after the facility is done, the reference plan, he then designs that, okay, look, this cable has to be changed after this number of years. This has to be changed after this number of years. This has to be changed after this number of years. If we do that, then we are moving to a more sustainable built environment. But it looks as if the whole national dialogue has been shaped towards structural. But we need the facility managers to make sure that these things are put in place so that we can sustain the built environment.
Very important, very important. I'll take thoughts quickly from my other two guests in the studio, and we'll round up with Dr. Kamalu Mute on the phone.
Yeah, with respect to the structural safety of a building, everything begins from the professional surveyor. Because without the surveyor, there's architect, what are you going to design? The engineer, what are you going to design? Because the geomatic surveyors who turn out, some specialize in land surveying, are these people who prepares everything, the ground for you to use, for you to know your limit in your design scope. So I just want to correct that aspect that he says in the built environment, and the architects and the engineers and the safety. No, that is wrong. He keep arguing about that. That is wrong. I don't want him to say that anywhere in this world.
I think that point has been well made. Yeah.
And then with respect to the soundness of the building, it's not the structural integrity, it's the structural stability, which has to do with the soft structure, which has to do with the saw test. They use that to design, the engineer, the architect design, and then they use that to construct, which the supervision aspect. Most of our high-rise buildings, those capital-intensive buildings, they are well supervised and sound. But with respect to Accra Mall has permit for certain portion of that facility, according to AMA. I was trying to source the file to bring to studio, but I think because of time, I was constrained with time. Yeah, and then
are you suggesting that they are sort of violating any regulation?
Yes, Accra Mall, yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes, Accra Mall, accordingly, I was told by Accra Metropolitan Assembly that some of the items that was developed there, they still need to seek permitting structures, because part of Accra Mall was issue permit. And then they went ahead, they applied for partial COH, which means Certificate of Habitation. So Accra Mall was granted partial COH, not for the whole structure. Now that they claim they have completed. So they wrote to Accra Metropolitan Assembly, it came to me. And I replied that they should get a consultant to produce a built drawing to be compared to what they have at Accra Metropolitan Office, so that they will come for inspections and then they'll be issued with Certificate of Habitation. So no wonder why that poorly built roofing component that caused, that failure of the structure.
This is very serious.
Should come from maybe a heavy air conditioner unit that was placed, because most of it are within the ceiling component, between the roof and the ceiling component, which must have caused the ceiling to fail.
Dr. Nkatia, what you're telling us is very serious.
Yes.
I mean, in your capacity as Metropolitan Director of Works, you're telling us that the permits that Accra Mall has are not what they need for the structure that we see there. So why are you allowing thousands of Ghanaians to walk in and out of an improperly regulated structure every single day? Why are people there right now?
Portion of Accra Mall does not have permit with respect to AMA records. I was told that they completed half of the development. They put in for building permit. They were granted, but the remaining portion was still under construction. Now that they claim that they have completed, then they should now apply for certificate of habitation. Sincerely, they did. They came to my office last year, but I replied in that they should get a consultant because they did the modifications were carried out by themselves. So they should get their consultants to produce to Accra Metropolitan Assembly the build drawings of what they have completed. So they will be satisfied by inspection. As I speak, we have not yet received it.
So they failed to do what you asked them to do. Now they're having trouble with their structure, and you're still allowing people to go there. I went there today myself. I saw people walking up and down, in and out of the shops. Everything is operating when they have failed to meet the instructions that your office gave them.
They do not have certificate of habitation. They had partial certificate of habitation, and the law says that can be granted until you complete, so that they come for full inspection. They did apply. They
haven't had that
because they have not submitted a full bill drawing as we speak. The Facilities Management Department wrote to Accra Metropolitan Assembly.
My question remains, Dr. Nkatia, why are they still in operation if they haven't done what they're supposed to do?
Sincerely speaking, Accra Mall is no more being controlled by Accra Metropolitan Assembly. They are now controlled by Lade Kotopon Municipal Assembly.
So they've been passed on to another assembly, someone else's responsibility?
Yes. So
and did you inform them that there is this outstanding permit?
I was waiting to receive their full documentations, and then would now forward it officially to Lade Kotopon. Then we'll
so they don't even know?
No, they have not yet submitted. I'm not too sure whether Lade Kotopon is aware of what I'm speaking about.
Dr. Nkatia, that means that the delay of your office is putting people at risk. 3 people were hurt when that ceiling collapsed.
That's what I was told.
And this is down to you and your office. You failed to pass on the information when you should. And so those who are supposed to oversee them don't even know what the problems are there.
Because we're waiting for the build drawing to recommend it to Lade Kotopon officially. And as I speak, they have not yet submitted the bill drawing. So that will be inspected for full COH, meaning certificate of habitation. When that is satisfied by the team, then which means the place is habitable enough to welcome people.
We'll leave that there for a moment. I want to get the final thoughts of Dr. Stephen Ankama Lomote, who's the Metro Director of Factories. He is mandated to inspect factories, stores, and other business facilities for structural integrity, and he's responsible for the Tema area. So, Doc, from what we've heard, it appears that, I mean, with your limited men and even more limited resources, 1 car for 6 inspectors and so forth, I have a feeling that this story will replicate itself several times in your area. There must be several institutions where you've noticed breaches, informed them of it, but action has not been taken, and people are still trooping in and out of these facilities. Am I right?
You may be partially right, because we are on top of our issues in Tema. You know, Tema goes up to Ada. So as far as we know, we are in control here. So, well, we have not heard of anything like he's talking about now.
But has everybody complied? Has everybody in your area complied with your instructions, your regulations, and are there no violations across your area?
Like 100% efficiency under this sun. Even a machine does not work 100% efficient. So you are sure some would definitely violate.
Wow.
Because in safety we have what we call decision to err. There are some that take their experience and they will always defeat safe operating procedures. So definitely once in a while you get incidents and some accidents and some injuries here and there.
You know, I don't know about you, but the more we talk about this, the more concerned I get. I feel we must immediately rush to find solutions. Let's try and figure out how to make these places safe.
You know, since the year 2000, we've been trying very hard to get a national safety policy that will be so mandatory, and then it will serve as an example for most of the industries to draw their own safety policy, which will be a roadmap to managing safety at the enterprise level. But we have been pushing and pushing it down with cabinet, They said we should fine-tune it and bring it. And it's about 18 years. I am retiring in a few months' time. You see? So we have a problem in this country, like my friend Amir here was saying.
Yes.
When it comes to construction sites, you know, all the hazards that you expect in any industry are at the construction site. You go from excavation to laying of bricks to spraying to painting. It's a hazardous place of work. One of the most hazardous place of work when it comes to safety. Yet we don't have construction safety engineers on the ground, like he said. So these are some of the lapses in the already existing law, and we are pushing hard to correct.
Okay. Okay. I think at this point we're going to say a big thank you to all of you.
Thank you
this
very
conversation.
Much. So you can push. You can ask why the national policy on operational health and safety is delaying.
That sounds to me like a long-term solution, which we must pursue. But of course, in the meantime, we ought to ask ourselves, what do we do when our family goes out this weekend into lots of public places? How do we make sure that they're safe? What can we do in the short term to keep ourselves safer in this rather shaky built environment that we have in Ghana? But for now, I want to say a big thank you to all of our guests. In the studio, we had Dr. Stephen Nkatia, Metropolitan Director of Works at the AMA. He was here with Nicholas Solomon, who's the Project and Facilities Management Consultant. He works with Head Nick Consult. In the studio also, Stephen Jabba, Licensed Surveyors Association is where he came from. And on the phone, we had Nana Noami here, President of the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, GISEP. And also on the phone, Dr. Stephen Ankama Lomuti, Metro Director of Factories. He's mandated to inspect factories, stores, and other business facilities in the Tema area for structural integrity. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time.